Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Texas Towing and Storage Advisory Board. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here this morning. Thank you to everyone who's attending via the internet here. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and thank you to the executive office that's here, Mary Winston and David Gonzalez. All right, I think that takes us to roll call. Anna, could you do a roll call for us?
Yes, ma'am. Thomas Griffin,
Present.
Jimmy Zulke,
Present.
Kyle Jackson,
Here.
James Spears,
Here.
Tasha Mora,
Present.
Gary Hoffman,
Here.
Charles Rash,
Here.
and Ulmer,
Here.
and presiding officer Amy Milstead.
Here.
We have a quorum, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I would like to remind everyone to mute their mics when they're not speaking so that we could keep the noise in the background down. I'd also like to remind you to state your name when we're making comments. That would help with the records. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I think everyone received that in their packet. Do we have any questions or concerns on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Ken Ulmer.
You?
I'll second the motion, Gary Hoffman.
Perfect. So we have a motion and a second. Anna, motion carries.
Let me do a roll call vote for you.
Okay.
Thomas Griffin,
Aye.
Jimmy Zulke,
Present.
Kyle Jackson,
Aye.
James Spears,
Aye.
Tasha Mora,
Aye.
Gary Hoffman,
Aye.
Charles Rash,
Aye.
Ken Ulmer,
Aye.
and presiding officer Amy Milstead.
Aye.
The motion passes, ma'am.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, do we have anyone present for public comment, Anna?
We did have one person signed up, but I do not believe they're in the meeting yet. If they come into the meeting, I'll let you know if you want to go ahead and skip that portion of the meeting, and then we can go back whenever the person logs into the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And as always, those of you that are listening, we appreciate your public comments. It's a way for you to get your voice in, so don't hesitate to send those in for the next meeting. Brings us to item agenda E, staff reports. We'd like to hear from each one of them. We'll start with the licensing division, Ms. Laura Hernandez.
Good morning, board members. My name is Laura Hernandez. I'm the manager for the tools team in the licensing division. I've presented our statistics, which have remained about the same. We've included the fiscal year 2020 and then through the third quarter for fiscal year 2021. Not sure if anybody has any questions regarding the statistics. Also, in my staff report are some updates. We do have an update that we're assisting licensees with emergency extensions. Under this emergency authorization, if licenses expired between August 1st, 2020 and September 18th, 2021, they have up to 120 days to continue to do that, to use that license while their renewal is being processed. We are encouraging everybody to renew online that can take advantage of this option. That is the fastest. And we are still in the licensing division working as quickly as possible to process all payments, renewals for applications as quickly as possible to get through that. Another update from our last meeting was in regards to emails. I know we had a question in regards to the number of emails that we received for the Towing VSF program. We are working with customer service to try to get a good count so you all know how many inquiries we're getting directly from customers. So we're trying some different options. One of the options that we're doing right now is trying to capture everything that comes through our website, all email inquiries that come in. And this is a work in progress. My team handles roughly about 400 emails a week. So to try to determine which programs those all come from has been a little bit of a task. But so far, the process that we're trying right now, for the month of June, we had about 259, and for the month of July, we had about 225. So we're hoping that we can get this tied down and we can get some exact numbers to get a good inquiry of how many emails we receive from the public regarding tow and vehicle storage facility. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Board members, any questions for Ms. Laura Hernandez? Okay. We appreciate your report, Laura. Thank you. Next one is customer service, Jacqueline Rush.
Hi, good morning, board members. My name is Jacqueline Rush, and I'm one of the managers in the customer service division. And it's nice to be with you here today. I have a few personnel updates and some statistics to share with you. After 15 years of service to TDLR, our Director of Customer Service, Trey Fields, has moved on to pursue other endeavors, and we wish him the very best in his pursuit. The impact that he's had on the division and the agency can't be overstated, and we will miss him. Another departure that we've had is customer service quality training and performance analyst Stephen Wynn, who's moved on to another division within TDLR. He is now with the Office of Process and Project Management because of his impressive commitment to developing onboard training for our new employees as the agency has grown with more and more programs, and because of his dedication in helping develop more sophisticated and detailed reports. We're excited to see the value that he will be adding to the OPPM's team's projects in the future. And the Customer Service Division is currently hiring for a director, a quality training and performance analyst, and 6 customer service representative positions at this time. Moving on to the statistics portion of our report. You'll see that we've provided statistics for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 so far through June. So you'll see the number of phone calls and emails we've received. As Laura had mentioned, we had, upon evaluating the nature of the emails that we received in customer service, realized that we were doing a lot of forwarding to their team. So in an effort to keep from being a bottleneck, those emails are now going to her team directly. You'll see from November to June, 3 or 4 emails show up here and there from month to month. In March, we had 8. The reason for that being is that whoever contacted us at that time chose the other function in our web form, and it came to us, and we did respond to those. And those were, if you have any questions on the report, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mike. Collier's here.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Ken Ulmer, is there a reason that we don't have more emails? I mean,
yes. We don't have any less or more emails. It's the reporting to towing emails. Those are going directly to the licensing team, and they're responding to those very quickly. The change occurred because in evaluating the types of emails that we had, we realized that those weren't the kind of things that we could resolve without sending them to licensing experts. So we just didn't want to be a holdup. And I think fairly soon, per Laura's report, they're working on getting an accurate count for you all.
So it's just more accurate reporting, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for Jacqueline Rush? Okay, thank you for your report, Jacqueline. And we wish them well on their future endeavors. The Trey Seals in his new endeavor, leaving the commission. We're going to miss him, I'm sure. And then Stephen Wynn, good luck to him in the new department. So good luck finding help over there. We know how
Thank
hard
you so
that is
much.
these days. All right. I think I heard that Commissioner Collier joined us. Welcome. We appreciate you attending today, and thank you for giving our industry some attention. Okay, next report would be from Enforcement, Natalie Olvera. If you'd like to give your report, please.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Natalie Olvera. I'm a prosecutor in the Enforcement Division, and I'll be presenting Enforcement's report to you today. First, we have some personnel updates. Enforcement has gained 3 new attorneys working on inspection cases: Sarah McKinney, Rachel Seshan, and Hunter McKinley. And hopefully we should have 1 more new attorney that's starting next week to help out with our transportation team. Now on to some statistics for this program. For fiscal year 2021 up to June of this year, department has opened 987 tow cases and 431 VSF cases. Approximately 8% and 12% of those respective cases have resulted in disciplinary action. And disciplinary action means a case that has been closed with an order of the commission or is signed by the executive director, such as an agreed order or default order. Final orders are entered by the commission after a case is heard at SOA. Default and agreed orders, again, are signed by the executive director without a hearing. For both tow and VSS, most of our source of our complaints come from consumers, and the majority of those cases are closed as informally resolved. And of course, informally resolved is listed on that table below, whether that's closed for insufficient evidence, a warning letter, maybe a refund has given and the complainant is satisfied, so they withdraw their complaint. The top violations in tow that have been resulting in disciplinary actions we see are criminal history, towing without authority, and charging more than allowed for a tow. The top violations in VSF that we've seen resulting in disciplinary actions are charged an impound fee without detailing the services or dates, and failed to require the correct information on notification letters, and didn't maintain records for the 2-year statutory time frame. Now we'll just jump down to some case highlights. In your packet, there is statistics for fiscal year 2020, but we have gone over those before in a past meeting, so we're just going to skip past that and go down to the case highlights, just a sample of what we've had. The first case with M&M Towing, this was just an agreed order where respondent accepted administrative penalty of $750 for charging a non-consent incident management tow fee than was greater than allowed by law. The respondent has paid the penalty. In the second case, Knights Towing, involved a few cases. This was a default order assessing the respondent almost $12,000 in penalties. He was performing tow operations without the appropriate licenses from the department, and also using tow trucks that were not properly permitted, and again, doing unlicensed activity. The third case, Long's Towing, again involved a few cases that we were able to wrap up. This was a flipping case, and again, flipping is a deceptive practice either in tow or VSF to induce vehicle owners to have their vehicles taken from the scene of an accident to an unregulated body shop, and this can add thousands of dollars of unnecessary fees to be paid by a vehicle owner or possibly their insurance company. In this case, an agreed order was issued, and the respondent agreed to revocation of their tow license, and they agreed to pay a reimbursement of $6,000 to the vehicle owner, and respondent has complied with that order. For J&B Hicks, this is also a flipping case, but this is on the VSF side instead of the tow. This was a commission order that was issued on May. Respondent's vehicle storage facility license was revoked, and they did have a $5,000 administrative penalty attached. And with this case, because it was a commission order, it did go through the whole process of a hearing being set, went through SOA, and then was presented before the commission. In the last case, ATX Towing, this was an agreed order. Respondent accepted a penalty of a little over $1,000. In this case, respondent required exact change from vehicle owners and refused to give the vehicle owner back their change when they didn't have, I think it was, about 20 or so dollars, $25 and change that they wouldn't give back to the vehicle owner. And the respondent is paying their penalty in accordance with their payment plan. And I'm available if you have any further questions on the materials I presented.
I have just a couple of questions, Ken Ulmer. Looking through the alleged violations, what it says top 10 VSF alleged violations. I'm sorry, I looked at several things and I got myself confused. Top 10 tow alleged violations. Criminal history. There's 231. What does that mean?
Sure. First, just to address the alleged violations, those are what a case is opened under. It doesn't necessarily mean that when we close a case that that violation has occurred. So that's just what has been reported as why the case is opening. And with criminal history, we're looking into with renewals or with applications, if somebody has committed criminal acts in their past that either might disqualify them from being receiving their tow license or VSF license, or they have renewed and maybe they have been incarcerated but didn't tell us and we find out, or they were accused of some crime, felony theft, something like that. So criminal history is we try to look at their criminal backgrounds and make sure that everybody that we have licensed is being appropriate so we can protect our consumers.
Right. So when you say criminal history, you're really talking about like when they attempt to renew or something along those lines. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about, okay. That's what I didn't understand. Would that be a brand new application as well?
We do look at those for brand new applications as well. Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, saying it's a violation, if it's a brand new person, it would be a violation because they didn't disclose it to you?
Potentially, yes. But again,
Okay.
these are just cases, the alleged ones, when they're opened, it doesn't necessarily mean that when that case is closed,
Right.
that violation did occur.
Right. I was just trying to understand how that occurred. Okay. I think that sums me up.
So Natalie, this is Commissioner Collier. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you for
Thank you
joining.
so much. Hey, hi everybody. I appreciate everyone being on board and supporting this effort. And for to follow up from the question that was just posed, is there data or is the data in the report that shows what the alleged data is? Because if I'm hearing you correctly, the top 10, for example, towing issues is what you believe it to be, right, when you first receive it. Do we have the information once it's drilled down and we actually know what they are?
Yes, Commissioner. There will be, I believe it's right below that one. So we have the alleged violation, and then there is a table right below that on in your packet. And those are the top violations that result in disciplinary actions. And so that's when we're going to have either a commission order or an order signed by the executive director. And these are the violations that we are actually seeing as opposed to what was alleged in the case opening.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Let me get a copy of that. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions from the board? I'd just like to make a couple of statements. Natalie, thank you for your report on everything. It's for the listeners and of course board members in the towing business. I just want to point out, some of these case highlights that are listed here: overcharging $237 and not giving change of $21.70. I mean, those are small prices to benefit, and the fines are ridiculous. I'm not saying the commissions do anything wrong. I'm saying towers and people in the industry need to realize, what you're gaining there is going to cost you way more in the long run if you're not, taking the effort to do your business right. It's just not worth it. It's better to do things on the right and follow the rules, because those little fees are not worth it.
Amy,
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair. Mary Winston here, teasing here, TLR. You make great points, and this body is really of great assistance to the department in developing our criminal conviction guidelines and our penalty matrix. So you all had a hand in. For those who are newer, you'll have a hand in the future as we revisit it, but our chair is completely correct. These are the guidelines. These are guidelines that this board assisted in creating, and it's not worth it. Thank you.
Yes, and
Madam
just
Chair, if
yes,
I
ma'am.
interject, Elizabeth Salinas, Strip Matter at General Counsel's Office. So I just wanted to remind the board, because we have several new members, that we did do a penalty matrix review with this program approximately 2 years ago. So what the current penalty matrix says has been updated to reflect what the industry wanted to see in terms of penalties and how we rank the seriousness of the violations. So we encourage everyone to review that penalty matrix because it is something that we do periodically review. There's a work group for it, and we look forward to your input in the future. And it really does make a difference on the penalty matrix, the feedback that we receive.
Okay, and again, no ill comment meant towards the department. I just want to encourage towers to follow the rules, and it's not worth it. There's no reason to have to pay a penalty if you just follow the rules. Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that.
I
Okay,
had one
now,
thing that I wanted to highlight just real quickly. First of all, I want to compliment the enforcement division on getting this report like we requested it, which specifically the percent of cases closed with insufficient evidence. I thought that was a very important number that I really wanted to see, and it does bear very close to what my thoughts were. I mean, almost half the cases, right at 50%, had insufficient evidence, proving out my theory that a lot of people are unhappy because their car's towed. They've gone to jail. They may have, left their car in a place it shouldn't have been. And a lot of these complaints originate with no substantiating evidence to prove that there was anything wrong. So thank you, number one, for getting that in there. I believe that it truly does give an indication of the fact that a lot of these complaints are filed without merit. And that was really my contention was, how bad are we really doing? I really want to see. You can see this huge number of complaints, but you can't really gauge with the number that are closed or negotiated or whatever the case may be. This gives us a really good bird's eye view. So thank y'all very much for getting that in there.
This is Tasha Mora. I would echo that. For the last several meetings, I've just asked exploratory questions regarding our statistics and such. And so this gives a clearer view of exactly that. So how many cases have been opened and how many have, we've had information on those that needed disciplinary action, but also being able to see now the data that we've requested. So the percentages that are there. So it looks like as far as needing disciplinary action for tow, we're at 7.73% needed disciplinary action of the complaints. And for VSF, we're at 12.5% required disciplinary action. So the balance of those fell into the informally resolved. That's a huge number to look at. And so my next question and phase would go to, with so many of these cases being closed as informally resolved and the majority as insufficient evidence, is I understand there's a lot of time and resources that the department invests into investigating these cases. So I would like to, forward thinking, look into how much time does each one of these cases on average take to finally resolve, because that's a lot of resources being invested into cases that are, there's no evidence of a violation. The majority of these cases, the towers and the VSFs seem to be in compliance. There's not an evidence of a violation. So I just know that we have to be careful with the resources that are available and make sure that we're allocating those resources accordingly. And I'm absolutely pleased how we've moved towards getting better transparency and clarity in these figures. It's important for myself, and I would say our board, to know what are we doing wrong, but also what are we doing right? Are we doing good out there? And I appreciate the work that's gone into this. Thank you, everyone.
Any more comments or questions? Okay, again, I want to thank Natalie Olvera for her report. I want to welcome the new attorneys to the Enforcement Division. Again, these reports are good and we appreciate them, and we're trying to improve our industry. So hopefully people are listening and reading and learning from this.
Ms.
Okay,
Miller,
next. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have the public commenter in our lobby. Would you want to go back up to public comments now or wait until after the staff reports?
Absolutely. Let's take it now so we can get him taken care of. Are we ready? Should I call on him?
Looks like he's joining the meeting now. So maybe just a second. Okay.
Yeah, this is Larry Cernasek.
There he is.
Hello, Larry Cernasek. It is time for public comment. We'd like to let you go ahead and speak.
Okay, I want to speak about 7J, about the VSF 11 form. First of all, my name is Larry Cernasek. I've been in the towing business 43 years. You know, we've beat this thing to death, and really what needs to happen, the work group just needs to make a motion to just do away with the section 5 of the form, and then y'all can have all the work studies y'all want, because people are still getting their cars taken by the insurance companies without their permission, and it needs to be stopped. It's gone on for too long. So, you know, that's the only way to solve the problem. Then maybe somebody will come to the table and correct the problem and get this, you know, done, because like I said, too many people are getting their cars taken. We had a guy call us this morning, and the insurance company's trying to pick his car up, and the guy called me, and I said, you told us not to release it. And he said, yeah, and I told them the same thing, and they're telling me that they're going to come with the VSF form and pick it up. And I said, well, we're not going to give it to them because you told us not to give it to them. So anyway, something needs to be done today. We can't let this drag on forever. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Larry Cernasek. We appreciate your comments. Okay, that takes us back to our staff reports. We'll jump right back into number 4, Field Inspection Division. I'd like to call on Ulysses Ocio.
Good morning, Chairwoman and board members. My name is Ulysses Ocio, and I'll be presenting the report for field inspections. For personal updates, currently we have 2 positions posted, one for field liaison and the next one for field inspector in the East region, which is the Houston area. Both of those positions are open until filled. Next, we have our statistics. As you all can see, the number of our inspections have increased slowly due to after some of the restrictions on some of the counties were lifted. So we're slowly getting back into the field and conducting inspections. And the inspectors are glad to be back in the field and talking to the industry. Next, we have our top 10 violations. As you all can see, signage is still one of the most common violations that we have. And lastly, we have the projects that we're currently working on due to the response of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, TDLR suspended all inspections in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In August 2020, TDLR began to field test a VSF virtual inspection process, and testing continues. And I just want to take a moment to thank those VSF that work with us to get that process going and try to make it better. So thank you to the industry. On August 7, 2020, TDLR resumed limited on-site inspections of vehicle storage facilities based on several factors. Whether the VSF was in a county where inspections have been suspended based on COVID-19 data and trends, whether the VSF might be a good candidate for a virtual inspection, number of available inspectors trained on VSF inspections, and available travel budget. On April 6, 2021, all counties were removed from the COVID-19 suspended county list and are open for inspections. And as of June 30, 2021, the Field Inspections Division has conducted virtual inspections of 71 VSFs. 70 of these virtual inspections occurred during fiscal year 2021. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
No questions from the board? Ulysses, are we going to continue virtual inspections in the future? Is that something that's going to continue or unknown at this time?
You currently continue to work on the process. One of the main issues we have found is connectivity issues with some of the VSFs. We require a lot of paperwork when we audit. So we're trying to figure out what would be the best way for, not to be a burden when we ask for those documents. Sometimes they need to be fax or email. So those are the challenges we're currently working on to figure out what will be the best approach for the industry and for us.
Understandable. Okay, if there's no more comments or questions. All right, thank you, Mr. Osio, for your report, and we will move on. Next on the agenda is Regulatory Program Management Division, our favorite, Todd Forrester.
Hello, good morning. I'm Todd Forrester with the Regulatory Program Management Division. As you can see our statistics, we continue to receive inquiries both from the industry and from citizens and law enforcement and other entities who are other stakeholders who are interested. We are continuing with the compliance section on the website along with the compliance manual. We are holding steady at around 6% of traffic on the TOW VSF website for those sections. Hopefully it helps and hopefully people are using it to quickly get the information they need. We are continuing to monitor our analytic process with the questions we get and the information that we receive and how we receive it. We keep a spreadsheet of every contact, both going in or coming in and going out. That helps us to better understand what areas where the industry might need additional training, so we can step up in those areas if we need to. Outreach, we are continuing to do Zoom inspections monthly, or not inspections, Zoom trainings monthly. The trainings cover essentially everything the VSF needs to know in order to operate. We answer any questions anybody has. They've been successful. We have new people come to each one. We have people who have been to every training. They come to every single one of them. The industry seems to like it, and it's an easy workaround. It's better than having to go out, spend the travel budget and all that. This industry is actually very technology forward, so it helps that that helps with being able to provide these trainings. We will also be at the TOW show. We will be providing a training on Friday. We will have a booth on Friday and Saturday, and then we will be speaking on Sunday. So we look forward to a fun-filled weekend of towing mayhem. Are there any questions?
Todd, one quick comment. Thank you for all you do in these Zoom meetings. If people haven't been a part of them, they are very helpful, and appreciate you doing that. And one minor change on that legislative meeting, it's actually going to be Saturday morning for those of you listening instead of Sunday morning. It's typically Sunday morning, but this year it's going to be on Saturday morning. So we'll have to get up early Sunday to deal with it. But
yeah,
just to let you know, appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Anyone else comments or questions for Todd? And again, I want to reiterate, Todd, thank you for all that you're doing for us. We appreciate your dedication. I know I've called you many times in the middle of the day, and you're always so helpful. I encourage the listeners, if you can, attend that meeting next weekend, or at least attend the Zoom trainings once a month. every time I sit in one of those meetings, I learn something new. So it's very helpful to everyone. Thank you, Todd. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to Education and Examination Division. Michael Strawn, I think you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Michael Strawn. I'm Manager for Education and Examination Division and providing you with our statistics this morning. For total courses, our CE courses this year, and we tend to be in line. We are projected to be slightly above where we were last year, but overall pretty consistent on the total number of courses and course approval that we have for the year. Continue down, same thing. We have not had a no course, a new curriculum approval since October. I'm sorry, that's what I got. And remain consistent at that point in time with 8 total curriculum at this point in time. And number of CE invoices below, we continue to mail those out and receive fees back in. And I'm open to any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your report, Michael. We appreciate it.
Hey, Chairman Amy, if I can ask a question of Ulysses, if he's still on. This is Commissioner Collier.
Yes, I am, Commissioner.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So as you spoke to the connectivity issue with some of the locations, right? And how large of a problem is that? Do you have it quantified to see how large an issue that is?
Unfortunately, we don't. What we do notice is if the VSF is located in a remote area of the state, it is hard to get that cell phone signal so they can connect through Zoom or Facebook. I mean, FaceTime.
Okay. And so, but you do know where the locations are, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Geographically, and do we have any partner organizations in those particular locations, or maybe you can identify that lines up? What I'm attempting to do is to see how large the magnitude is and what could be some possible solutions that can maybe come forth from the board here, and then the timing to address. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Those are just questions from a commissioner's standpoint.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your help there. Okay, taking us to the Executive Office Report, David Gonzalez and Mary Winston. We'd like to hear from you guys.
Good morning, Presiding Officer, Advisory Board members, Chairman Collier. Thank y'all for all being here today. We're actually going to tag team as normal. Mr. Francis is out doing other business of the state. So I'm going to let Mr. Mike Addis-Mendez, who joined us this morning, lead off with the legislative update, and then I will fill in afterwards. You're muted, Mike. All right, let's see if we can get Mr. Mike's audio working.
He's having some audio issues, David. If you would just go ahead.
Sure, I'm going to go ahead with the report. So, as you know, we had 2 major items, at least for the agency, in regards to our legislative update that were most important to us. House Bill 1560, which was the Sunset Bill, which we spent a couple years working on, endless meetings. Y'all have heard reports from us about the work that's been going on. I'm pleased to announce that we have been continued for an additional 12 years. That's a huge issue for us to be able to say that we've accomplished that and that the agency will be continuing that time. We can continue to work for the state. The other major item that was developed during the legislative appropriations is our legislative appropriations request, which basically is our funding for our agency. In order for us to be able to do the work that we do, we actually have to ask for monies from the legislature, and the monies that they approve for our operations is what allows us to get the business done for our different programs. That legislative appropriations request, we were successful in getting those. We did have a 5% budget cut that has made us pull the belts a little bit tight and make sure that we're being as effective and efficient as possible. There was actually a better than expected outcome for the state as far as revenues. So even though we were asked to pull the budget tight 5%, revenues ended up being pretty good, and the monies that we take in from our different programs were satisfactory to cover all the costs for running all of our programs. A significant request that we made as an exceptional item was a request for monies to continue the Texas licensing system that we're pursuing for this agency, to take our 7 to 8 databases down to one database, or at least our hope is to get all of our programs onto a single database and improve our efficiencies. If we can get everybody doing their work online, if we can have all of our staff working on one system, it's going to make our jobs a little bit more efficient, because we're not having to learn 7 to 8 different databases with different processes and different requirements, different reporting requirements to get the work done for each of the different programs. And more importantly, it should make it simpler for all of our customers. When they go online, they're going to see some consistency on how the work is done from program to program. So that exceptional item was approved for the Texas licensing system, about $2 million worth to work on phase 2. We have been working on phase 1 and making progress, but still quite a bit of work to do. Had a few curveballs thrown at us during the legislative session with the Bar-Cause merger that's happening for our agency, a significantly large program. We've got to do some recalculations on how that would be implemented into the new Texas licensing system, because those were a couple of the programs that were initially intended to go up first. The things that I'm talking about, I think it's very important, and I don't know if you're prepared to share it or not, but as we did last time with Ms. Kaiser, if you could go to the page that shows our 87th legislature, I would appreciate it very much. Or it's important, I think, for the public to hear that everything that we discuss, we try to be transparent as possible, and we try to put as much of this information on our website. So you'll see on the first page where it says 87th legislature, see new bills related to TDLR. Everything I'm talking about, and actually more detail, is provided on that page. We try to provide our updates and give out information so that the public is aware of what's going on. Right now, we are in the full midst of our bill implementation, and the bill implementation process at our agency has been around. I've been at the agency 25 years. It's been around for about 20 years, the way that Mr. Francis has us working on it. It's an all hands on deck process. This is a time for our subject matter experts to shine, like Todd Forrester and Elizabeth Strittmeyer, General Counsel and RPM. Their subject matter experts and their knowledge ends up permeating the rest of our agency, because we pull people from every division that's affected by these bills: enforcement division, licensing division, customer service division, E&E. We pull a few individuals from each of those divisions to participate in these bill implementation teams to make sure we have perspectives from every division when we're reviewing, let's say, House Bill 914 for tow and vehicle storage facilities. When we're reviewing these bills, we don't want anything to be left on the table. We don't want to miss any opportunities to do this right. So we include all the different divisions in a bill implementation plan. It often involves work groups from the advisory boards. Y'all will be included in the process. Some of our bills require that we actually have summits to get out with the public and get their input before we do things. The bills that affected towing and vehicle storage facilities this session, y'all are familiar with. HB 1560, the one that we did, our sunset bill. It did include some specific requirements, and actually deleting some requirements for continuing education or initial renewal education requirements. The other bills, 914, 15, 860, and 1181, I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on these, but I will tell you that we have bill implementation teams working on each of these. They've been put into action, and as soon as we're able to develop the communication plan and the rules, that information will be either posted on our website or conferred with on our work groups with our advisory board as necessary. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. So Mr. Adis Mendez, if there's something, if you've got our audio now, or Mary, if there's something that I need to include, just let me know.
David, Mary Winston here. I'm not sure if Mike got audio yet. I think we've said it before and we're going to say it again. Our biggest kudo, if we can say, and we worked very hard for, is to be continued for the next 12 years. So with the implementation that we're doing, TDLR kind of never sleeps. So we will get messages. What time was that this morning, David? But we won't talk about that. So our executive director is working, y'all, always working, not here with this meeting, but he's somewhere else, trust me. So we had our session. Then, we had new bills. David just called out several. So now it's time for us to do bill implementation, which means we work the will of the legislature internally. How are we going to get the things done that we've been directed to do from the session? Then we have strategic planning, which means we're preparing for what do we need? What have we learned from that implementation process and through working with our licensees and the public to strategically plan for the next session? And so we just kind of go on a round robin of these things. I don't have anything to add, David. I think you covered it. And as always, if anyone has any questions, please refer to our website or contact us. David?
David Gonzalez, Licensing Services, Deputy Executive Director. Just one more point I do want to add. Y'all have heard in our reports us making note of some vacancies for positions. This process we're talking about from implementation is also the way we develop our bench strength. David Gonzalez has been here 25 years. He may not be here another 25 years. Brian Francis may not be here another 20 years. We've got to develop the staff, and they have stepped up cases with the work that they do, the research that they do, and the coordination and collaboration they do with the public and our advisory board members. They're the ones that actually make the work happen and the bill implementation go successfully. So just appreciate the cooperation and remind the public that when we have rules that are being developed, your participation in that rule development is so key. The feedback, the public comment, that's when the rubber hits the road. That's when the work that we do really makes the most sense, and we need the feedback to get it right. So just as a reminder that when rules get published that may be related to bill implementation or processes put out there, we need y'all's feedback. That's all I had to add.
Madam Chair, we did have one more bit for the executive team. Mike is still having communication or audio issues, but he is feverishly typing. Don't forget communication statistics. So I'm not going to do that. I'll do that point right now. So Anna, thank you. Mr. Omer, you brought up earlier when customer service was giving their report, you know, why were the emails so little or few, or was it less or whatever? Part of it is our ongoing efforts to effectively communicate. I'm a member of the team of the Office of Strategic of Communication. And part of that is we have Kevin Harris, Mike Fickle, several members, our government relations staff who works very hard with Mr. Steve Bruno. And this is one snippet. It's not scientific, but it's very informational. And it helps us know how to deliver the information and how it's being effectively received. How can we figure that out? Because we can tell who clicks on the site and from what instrument they use to click on the site. So over the past 6 months for this industry, the website has had over 200,000 views. That's an average of over 1,100 views per day. 32% of those visitors accessed the site from desktop computer, 67 did so from smartphone, and 1% from a tablet. Depending on which industry that I'm speaking to and that this report comes, thank you, Josh, that differs. Some folks are all computer desktop. Some folks are smartphone, but with this industry, you all are moving and shaking all the time. And I'm not surprised that the 67% is from the smartphone. Glad that we've been able to effectively be reached. The top reasons for visiting the site: consumer information about towing. That means our public, right? How to apply for a tow operator license, vehicle towing and booting law, towing administrative rules, and vehicle storage facilities, forms, and publications. So that rounds out the reasons, the top 5 of why the site's being visited, gives you a little snapshot for the last 6 months of who's been reaching out to us, and it helps us move forward in our efforts to better our communication with the industry and with the public. And that's all I have.
Madam Chair, if I can ask Mary a question, since she's an expert in this area.
All right.
This is Commissioner Collier. So Mary, does the data look similar when we're looking around disasters? For example, the Snowdio, that I forget what the formal name of it was, Irma could have been, or doing the floods and so forth. How does the data look as far as devices and so forth?
That data does change. I call it snowpocalypse, but I don't remember the formal name either. we can get that information from you. You can get that snapshot of that month, but that changes depending on, particularly for this industry. You know, that is an issue that made, oh my gosh, there were stalls everywhere, so tow trucks were out and about. But I'm not sure how that affected communication-wise with the agency, but I will get with Josh and find that out for us because that would be a little bit of information. I'm thinking we may have been reached less during that time because everyone was working so hard. But I will see if I can get that information backdoor to me before the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because understanding what happens around, the disasters may be able to be fed to our emergency, team here. So thank you for that update. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, David and Mary. We appreciate all the information and all the work you're doing for us out there. I will agree that we are a unique industry, sometimes an unappreciated industry, but we keep doing what we're doing because the public needs us, whether they want us or not sometimes.
Madam Chairperson, I have a question or a comment, if I may. This is Tasha Mora. Mary Winston, as far as our statistics of being able to collect where the visitors are going to the sites, is there information or is there a category where the compliments or complaints regarding a licensee might fall into? So specifically, if someone is accessing the complaint forms for to file a complaint against a licensee, where are those 5 areas would that fall into of the list that you've provided? And then I'm understanding that we could then peel that onion and there's, whether it was a handheld device or a desktop and such. Do
Right.
we know where that is?
Tasha, I think we can drill down a bit more and get that, Mary Winston TDLR. That is going to kind of reach beyond Josh Schroeder's overall numbers and we'll peel back that onion a little bit. I know Griselda Perez, who is an analyst for enforcement, is listening. She's been commenting off sides with giving other information. We'll try to peel that onion back for you. Not sure if we can get that right now, because if it's a complaint, that's going to go through enforcement. We can figure that out for you. It's going to be a different sort of statistic. And I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We'll figure something out for you. I don't know if we can get everything, but I know where you're going and we'll see what we can do.
Right, I appreciate it. And Commissioner Collier, thank you so much for joining us because this is really important to our industry, especially making sure we have the data and the data is coming through. Is it quantified? Also, I understand with House Bill 1560 and then also being able to be funded. The funding is absolutely important. And so what I'm looking at is obviously towing and having a car towed can stir emotions and people are emotionally charged. And with the statistics that are being presented and so many of those cases being informally resolved or insufficient evidence, there just seems to be an inordinate amount of energy and resources funneled there. So it's just also looking at where are these forms being accessed, which is great that they're so easily accessible, but is it a bigger picture? Is it not necessarily, it seems to me by the numbers, the industry is doing better. And now I'm working towards how do we better inform the public? And I know that we're doing a great job so far, but the numbers are speaking otherwise. Like there's an impression that the industry is doing wrong. And so the complaints are coming in and there's a lot of energy invested into researching and investigating those. So I'm just looking at bigger picture systems and such, and how does that reflect well for TDLR, for the consumer, and also for our industry as well.
Yeah, and obviously, if I may, Madam Chair, and this is Commissioner Collier, and before I respond to tomorrow to your comment, Mary, I know that we have black belts within the organization. See how they could be of some assistance, with that data and presenting the data, right? Kind of, drilling down, maybe a fishbone diagram to say, how best can the resources be applied where it makes sense, and we're still serving Texans at the highest, right, and at the best, as well as serving and meeting the needs of the licensees. I do want to note, Madam Chair, and I know there's some new folks on the board here. Each one of the commissioners have been assigned to sit on boards, the advisory boards to support. The towing and advisory board is one that I was assigned to, but I would have been on this board anyhow because of my background. Even though I'm a mechanical engineer by training, the family business for us was auto paint and body and repair, right? So that's in my blood. And first cousins had the towing and storage lot business. So this is um, uh, it's a passion of mine. And so when the cases come to the commission level, it's the ones that I've seen. I'm not happy. I'm not happy to see it at that level because I know the folks that have been in this business for years, and I know how they run their business, right? The towing or the VSF, and there are treat Texans and visitors to the state as they would treat their own family members, with respect, their vehicles and the whole aspect. So be it if the numbers are 7%, 12.5%, whatever that they are, my goal is that we get those down even further, because one particular case that comes to the commission level that's ugly, we really don't like to see this. So I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to make a couple of comments, additional ones, and thank you, Tamar, for your comments on the stats.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate all that you bring to us, your experience and knowledge. We couldn't ask for a better one to be on our board. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else on those topics, no more questions from the board or anybody, that'll take us to item F, and this is discussion and possible recommendation on the proposed amendments to existing Rule 16 Texas Administration Code, Chapter 86, 86-455, regarding the vehicle towing and booting program pursuant to the Occupations Code 2308.0575. The proposed amendments address the maximum amounts for private property tow fees, drop charges that may be charged by a towing company. I'd like to call on Mark Gladney to speak on this.
Good morning, board members and chairperson. For the record, again, my name is Mark Gladney with the General Counsel's Office. And this rule package that I'll be presenting today is a product of the requirement that the department establish maximum fees pursuant to Occupations Code 2308.0575 every 2 years that can be assessed by a towing company for private property tow fees and drop charges. In accordance with that law, the department contracted for a fee study to examine the factors that are noted within the statute to establish the maximum fee and the charge levels that are noted in the proposed rules. And you should find those proposed rules on page 26 of your materials. And thank you, Anna, for posting them there. Anna, if you could scroll down a little bit so we can get to the portions that have been addressed. So as you can see, 86.455 in subsection B, there has been an increase in the maximum amounts that can be charged related to private property tows, and you see them on your screen right now. And then if you scroll down a little bit farther down to subsection C, you'll see that the drop charges, the maximum drop charge has been also increased as a result of the fee study that was done. Now, with regard to the process for this rulemaking, staff is aiming to get the proposed rules published in the Texas Register as soon as possible. And we're aiming for an effective date of November 1st of this year because we're going to be running this in tandem with the VSF fees, which I'm going to discuss further in agenda item G. So that's pretty much what this rule package entails, and staff is asking for a recommendation to approve the publication package.
Mary Winston, TDLR. Did everybody get that, Mark? You kind of shut out on that last part. So I'm going to say this because I know that it typically does help with connectivity issues. Could you cut off your video and then try to give us that again? I don't know that do we need the whole thing, everyone? But I know okay. So the recommendation is the request for action is what we did not hear, I believe. Can you try again, Mark?
What we are asking for as part of the administrative rulemaking process is for the board to make a motion to approve the publication of the rulemaking package so we can stay in line with the timetable for an effective date on this rule package of November 1st. I hope everybody heard me.
Yes, we heard you, Mark. Thank you. Okay, so I think he is asking for a motion to approve the rulemaking package. Do I have anyone that wants to make a motion?
I, Tasha, would like to make a motion to approve the publication of the rulemaking package.
I have a quick question before we do it, and it's kind of combined with both of them, both of the packages. On as far as the private property tow fee study, it's based on the CPI. Well, I know it's been longer than the 2-year period since the last increase, but the increases between the CPI study and the storage rate increase appear to be quite a bit different, and I didn't know how they were established or.
Okay, the statute's pretty clear in 2308.0575 in subsection B. The components that are used, or at least the criterion that's used, is by the folks that are doing the fee study. They examine tow fee studies that are conducted by other municipalities, and they analyze the costs associated with towing services by company, the CPIU, the geographic area, and other cost components. I believe the geographic area that we're using would be the South region, and I can't tell you specifically what states those involve, but that is what the statute requires for any analysis to be done through a tow fee study. So I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Hoffman, this is Todd with Regulatory Program Management. We contracted with with somebody to do this study, and they did it based on CPI. The reason it's going to look a little bit different is because it's based off of percentages.
Okay, I think that answers it. Are we gonna have to redo the study every 2 years? Because I know that's supposed to be visited every 2 years like the storage rate is, and it's been more than 2 years since we've increased the PPI fee.
Yes.
So is it require a study every 2 years is what we're gonna have to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Per statute.
According to the statute, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I was thinking Mr. Hoffman's question might be, is the percentage the same? Because I was kind of wondering the same thing. So is the percentage applied the same, just different portions of the CPI? Ken Ulmer.
So the percentage is going to be different because the percentage for the VSF is based off of the last 2 fiscal years. And we just used the last 2 calendar years or I believe that the contractor used the last 2 calendar years for the CPI based off of for the towing. But the statute for vehicle storage facilities specific in that it has to be the last 2 fiscal years. Mark, am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
If I can just clarify, it's the last biennium.
Yes.
The preceding biennium is how it's phrased in the statute. So the preceding fiscal biennium, so the specific dates of the fiscal year for the preceding 2 years.
Okay, yeah, and this is Mr. Hoffman again. Mr. Ulmer that's what I was getting at, because it's about 4.5% difference, which is pretty significant whether it's fiscal year or calendar year. And I'm not wanting to cost us any money, but when we did the storage rate increase initially, they wouldn't go back, but it seems like it went a little further back on the PPI study, but I don't want to affect the dollar amounts. I'm just curious about the percentage wise was my biggest question, and why it's 4.5% different between the two fees.
It was mine as well, Mr. Hoffman.
This is Elizabeth Salinas Strittmatter with the General Counsel's Office, and I don't mean to interrupt Mark, but I'd just like to clarify. So there was a comment or a question about the PPI study. So, and the comment was that we hadn't been doing that regularly pursuant to the statute. You are correct, and that is something that was pointed out by Sunset to us during our last round. However, Ms. Milstead and I have spoken about this at length. One of the problems with doing a TOEFI study every year is that we have problems getting data back from the industry, or excuse me, every 2 years. We have significant problems getting data back from the industry. So if you go back to the first year that we were required to do the study, it was extraordinarily difficult to set those fees because we got virtually no information back from the industry. So what we have done since the initial study is we have used the CPI to update the rates based on the original study. So that's why you see the CPI-U being used there. With regards to the VSF storage fees, we are required in statute to follow a specific formula that includes the CPI-U. So unless the statute is changed, we won't be able to use a different formula. So we're mandated to use that formula. And in order to be consistent across TOE and VSF, we're using the CPI-U in both TOE and VSF. I hope that it might clarify or answer any questions that you have.
Yes, that helps. So if we wanted to change at a greater rate as it did with the PPI study, we're gonna have to have the study involved with the VSF storage fees as well.
Well, there would actually have to be a statute change because the statute says you do it based on the CPI-U for the preceding fiscal biennium.
Okay, all right, yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Real quick, Ken Ulmer. So just so that people watching understand, these are recommendations, and we're going to approve this recommendation, and then it will go into effect after it goes through the process?
If we approve the motion today, it will go into public comment. After public comment, then we can vote on it at our next meeting, I believe is my understanding. Elizabeth?
That's correct. That's the process. But I just want to point out that with regards to the storage fees, there's no wiggle room for TDLR. It's a statutory mandate that we use the specific formula that we use to amend that rule. With the PPI, we're being consistent with using the CPI-U based off of the most recent updated calculation with the data that we have. So we're required to do a study in the PPI. We're not required to do a study with the VSF. So the formula is what the formula is, and that's as much as we can give on the VSF storage rate. With PPI, again, that's also as much as we can give because we did a study based on an updated formula, and that is the rate that we were given by the contractor who did the study.
My main goal was to make sure no one viewing adopted these rates without understanding that they can't yet.
That's right, Mr. Ulmer. So yes, what will happen is we will go, if a motion is made today to publish the comments as written, or excuse me, to publish the rules as written, we will publish in the Texas Register for public comment. We will come back to the board to review the public comments. And then the normal process is if there any changes need to be made before we send it off to the commission, then that's done. Otherwise, if you decide to go ahead and send it to commission for adoption, it'll be adopted. The effective date of both of these rules, to be clear for those watching, is November 1 of 2021. So yes, your point is well made, Mr. Ulmer. People should not be charging and just adopting these new rates. November 1, 2021 is our suggested and requested effective date.
Okay, one more thing. I had some viewers on YouTube tell me that these documents did not show up for them to be able to see. Is that because they're a draft?
I'll let Anna answer that question because she was showing the document, so I'm not sure the answer to that question.
Yes, we only publish on our website the agenda and the staff reports. The proposed rule changes are just for the board members ahead of time.
Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't some type of a glitch.
Right, but they will get to see those rules if a motion is made to publish in the Texas Register. A notice will go out when it is published, and that'll be the start date of the public comment period.
This is Mary Winston, TDLR. We've talked about in the past, we'll say the first bite of the apple. So this comes initially from our general counsel's office to present it to the board. Then you all take that first look. Sometimes suggestions are made, but a lot of times, and this is across the advisory boards in general, a lot of times the boards decide to put this out there. You know, they take this first look, they vote to put it out there for the comment period. Then the public has their chance to take a look and make those comments.
I would, Madam Chair, I would make the motion to accept the recommendation and put it out for public comment.
Okay, we had a motion made by Tasha on it. Can we consider
Oh, I'm
Ken as a
sorry.
second?
Sure, I'll take a second. I didn't realize that. I apologize, Tasha.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, do we need a formal roll call on it? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thomas Griffin,
Aye.
Jimmy Zulke,
Aye.
James Spears,
Aye.
Tasha Mora,
Aye.
Gary Hoffman,
Aye.
Charles Rapp,
Aye.
Ken Ulmer,
Aye.
and presiding officer Amy Milstead.
Aye.
The motion passes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Okay, so agenda item G is similar to the same process, and some of you have already spoken in a few comments on this. So I'm going to hand it back over to Mark to talk about the possible recommendation and proposed amendments to the storage, vehicle storage facilities program. Mark?
Thank you very much. Okay, this rule package, which is the proposed amendments to the existing rule at 85.722, this rule increases the allowable VSF impoundment fee and daily storage fees in accordance with the CPI during the preceding state biennium. So if we can scroll down there a little bit, Anna, to those particular sections for which there's a change. And here we see in subsection D, the daily storage fee. So this rule package is a product of the requirement that the department adjusts the impoundment fee and the daily storage fees every odd numbered year, not later than November 1st of that year. And you've heard that November 1st is the deadline that's associated, certainly statutorily with this rule, but we are running both item F and G together so that we can get these rules effective on November 1st. So again, to that end, staff employed the calculation method that's in the statute as we discussed in item number F, and calculated the fees that are presented in the proposed rule. So you'll see them, the fee changes in subsection D, and Anna, if you can scroll down a little bit more. And you'll also find this in page 28 of your briefing books. Here we are at the impoundment fee, and you'll notice that there's a change in the maximum amount there for the impoundment fee, which again is an increase. Okay, so we spent a lot of time in item F talking about the process, and again, staff is aiming to get the proposed rules published in the register as soon as possible because we're aiming for that effective date, especially in this rule, for November 1st. But we also want the toll fee, property fee rule changes adopted at the same time. So the timeline is going to be very tight on these two rules. To meet the November 1st target, we're aiming for an August 13th Texas Register publication date. As you've heard before, there would be a 30-day comment period. So approximately September 13th would be the end of the comment period in which the public will get a full opportunity to see both of these rule packages, and they'll be able to submit their comments on those rule packages. And then we will need another advisory board meeting shortly after the end of the 30-day period for this to come back, and we'll address any comments that we receive at that particular time and discuss any possible changes that may need to be made to the rules during that next meeting. So we're going to need an advisory board meeting pretty quick after September 13th. Once we have that meeting, you again will review it and we'll ask for a recommendation to the commission for adoption of both of these rule packets. The next commission date is scheduled to be October 5th. So if we do get your approval when they come back again and recommendation for adoption to the commission, we should be able to hit the November 1st deadline with little problem. So just wanted to put you all on notice. That's why we are presenting these packages in the manner that they're being presented. So what we're asking again, as we did in item F, is for a recommendation for publication of this rule package in item G.
Okay, board members, we need a motion to approve the rulemaking packet again.
I'll make that motion.
Sorry, sorry, Kevin. Mora make a motion to accept the rulemaking package.
And
Okay,
I will second that.
Okay, Sam first, and Ken Ulmer a second. I think, Anna, we need another roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Thomas Griffin,
Aye.
Jimmy Zulke,
Aye.
Kyle Jackson,
Aye.
James Spears,
Aye.
Tasha Mora,
Aye.
Gary Hoffman,
Aye.
Charles Rath,
Aye.
Ken Ulmer,
Aye.
and presiding officer Amy Milstead.
Aye.
The motion passes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, board members. I know it's a small increase for some of us, but it's an increase, so we have to take what we get and move forward. All right, that brings us to item agenda H. This is going to be an update from the Continuing Education Work Group. Elizabeth Salinas Stripmatter, I believe, has a report for us.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Milstead. We met for this work group on May 3rd, and we further discussed some research that the members of the work group were asked to gather from some of the industry professionals. We received that research, discussed it. We think that we are near making a recommendation to the board, but I have to do some additional legal research that unfortunately I have not had time to do with legislative session and then going into our bill implementation. But it is on the very top of my priority list to complete that research and to convene another meeting of the work group, hopefully in August, to talk about that. As Mark mentioned, we will need another board meeting pretty soon after September 13th. So I'm hoping to convene the education and examination work group so that we can talk about whether or not they would like to put a proposal before the board on what to do with continuing education. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so it sounds like we're going to talk more about that at our next meeting. So we'll keep that in mind for future agenda items. Okay, thank you for that update, Elizabeth. Then that brings us to item I, update from the credit card fee work group.
Yes, so we met on this work group on July 14th, I believe. And we talked about some significant concerns relating to how to set the rate. Prior to that meeting, several members of the industry, including one member of this board, had reached out and given me some information and some points that they felt needed to be considered when we're discussing how to provide further guidance on the credit card fee issue. So the work group is going to do some more additional research, and I'm going to do some additional legal research in conjunction with Mark Gladney. And I anticipate that we will try to have another work group meeting also in August so that we can report back in September. I understand that the industry is getting frustrated about not having that guidance, but there are some significant concerns that we have with just kind of grabbing percentages out of the air and saying you can go ahead and charge this percentage. We really need to have a basis for the percentage and the guidance that we release. So that is coming. If you have any information or points that you'd like to get to me, welcome to email me. And I will look at that and pass that on to the work group as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this issue.
Okay, Elizabeth, we do appreciate your help on this. I just encourage the industry to be very cautious if you are trying to implement this charge, because we sure don't want anyone to have fines or problems with that. Just again, be very cautious until we get it, this more ironed out. Okay, there's no more comments on that. Item J, discuss and possible appointment of work group relating to the possible VSF 11 amendments. Again, we need to discuss creating a work group for the VSF 11 form. Anna, is this where I just call for members who want to be on this work group?
Yes, you can appoint them yourself. You can have volunteers, but we need up to 4 people from the board on this work group.
Okay, okay. And some of you that aren't in the industry that are sitting here because you're involved in this board because of your business, we need some help from you guys on this too. So any volunteers?
Madam Chair, I would like to be involved. Ken Ulmer.
That's good, because I was going to nominate you.
Gary Hoffman will be involved.
Okay, that was Hoffman, Gary Hoffman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have 2.
Tasha Mora.
Charlie Rash.
Okay, Anna, that's 4. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I have Ulmer, Hoffman, Mora, and Rash. Is that correct?
Yes, we have those 4 volunteering, but I know we really need some input from the outside. Is it possible to add another person, or would we have to eliminate someone if someone else got on there?
We can't have 5 board members on the work group. That is a quorum. I'm not sure if we can appoint someone from outside. I don't believe so.
I'm talking about someone on the board that's not in the towing industry.
Sure, of course. Yes, only 4.
Okay.
And Ms. Milstead, as Anna mentioned, you have the final say, you're the chair. So you can choose to appoint all of those who volunteered, some of those who volunteered, or appoint your own slate of people.
Okay. Okay. I'd really love to hear from the industry of insurance. James Spears, could I get you to serve on that committee?
Oh, certainly. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So who was I'm sorry?
You can take me off, Amy. I'm Charlie Rash.
Okay. Okay. I was going to ask who the last one to volunteer was, but if that works. Okay, Anna. So we have Ken Ulmer, Gary Hoffman, Tasha Moore, and James Spears. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you for volunteering. We appreciate your help, and you've got a big project ahead of you, but I know you all will bring your input and industry input as well. Okay.
Chairwoman Milstead, we will be looking at convening that work group hopefully in August for the first meeting. So we will be reaching out to you to get available dates. We're currently doing these via Teams. So it should be fairly easy for us to get together and be able to talk about this issue.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item K, discussion and possible appointments for the Rules Review Work Group, the Environmental Hazardous Fee Work Group. I'd like to start with the Rules Review Work Group. We do have a rules group, and I believe it's myself, Kyle Jackson, and it was Joanne Messina. Is that correct?
Yes, and also Tasha Mora.
And Tasha Moore, my apologies. Okay, so I believe we need to replace Joanne Messina, if that is correct. Any volunteers who'd like to be on the rules work group? And again, the outside people from the towing industry, we could use your help.
Amy, I'll do it if you want. Charlie Rash.
Okay, all right, so that will be replacing Joanne Messina. Anna, is that all we need to do here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Charles. So that brings us to the environmental hazardous work fee group. That doesn't need to be addressed because that fee went away back in 2019. So we'll just consider that a null and void thing to discuss on the agenda. All right, that brings us to agenda item L, and that would be recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting. Obviously, continuing education work group needs to go on there, and then credit card fee. Is that correct? Any other items that we need to add?
Amy,
Mary Winston, TDLR. Oh, I'm sorry. Who was speaking? I think.
Mary.
Mary Winston, TDLR. I just wanted to say briefly that I'm working in the background to get that information that was requested. So that may not happen by the end of this meeting. We will reach out to you all after the meeting, and we want to formulate kind of the information for our next meeting to provide an update so the world can know the answers to those questions. That's all, and I'm sorry for interrupting.
Madam Chair, Ken Ulmer, do we need to, I guess the work group for the VSFO 11 will already be presenting something, so we don't need to put them on the next agenda?
We will present an overview of what we've discussed at the meeting. I do imagine that it will take us a couple of iterations of drafts before we're able to present something, but we'll have to wait and see how the work group goes.
Well, I think it's only been being worked on for about 10 years, right?
Different people, Mr. Ulmer, different
It's been
people.
around for a while.
No, I agree. And I have to say, with TDLR, I have to give you all credit that you don't give up, no matter what. Neither does the industry, but none of us give up. So eventually we will get to a good solution. Thank
Right.
y'all for that.
And so I'd also just like to point out that forms are traditionally the purview of the department. Those aren't approved by our advisory boards, but we are wanting to hear your input, and we are wanting to see how we can get a better form for all interested parties in the industry. So we will be updating and seeking input and updating the board, but as far as the form goes, I'll have to talk more specifically with our GC, Brad Bowman, but I don't think we will be presenting a form before the board for adoption. That will be something that TDLR rolls out. That is not to say that we will not be listening to you. That is what the work group is for.
Okay, other items for the next agenda? That's it? Okay. All right, so I guess that brings us to discussion of date and time and location of next meeting. I believe Mark spoke that after September 13th, we would be ready to move forward on the amendments. So I think Anna has a few dates to throw out at us after September 13th.
Yes, we're looking at Wednesday, September 15th, the following Thursday or Friday. So the 15th, 16th, or 17th of September.
15th is perfect for me.
I vote 15th or 16th.
Does 15th work for everybody?
15th is good with me as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay. Ms. Messina, would you like to go ahead and set the next board meeting date for September 15th?
Yes, ma'am. September 15th. I'm assuming it'll be video just like this, probably 10 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meeting is set for that date. All right. If there's nothing else to discuss, we will adjourn the meeting today, 11:31. Thank you all for attending. Thank everyone for viewing, and we look forward to speaking with you again in September.